Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. Just as soon as I get a preview of 4.1 wrapped up where I said there was nothing of significance promised, Xylo drops a post announcing that 4.1 will have changes to item recovery. So let's dig into understanding what it will look like, and bear in mind that not everyone will be happy with this, and there are a lot of little things that will need to be worked out in the process. Also, do not expect this to make logical sense. Little enough makes sense in Respawn as it is, and this is one of those areas where they are prioritizing fun over realism. Maybe this might be an opportunity to retcon how the whole Respawn thing works, but one can only hope. So, let's start with how things work now as a baseline. Since Xylo described the changes in 4.1 as being Tier 0, I am forced to describe the status quo as Tier -1. Which would make the way things existed at the earliest stage of the persistent universe as Tier -2. In Tier -2, the original PU, nothing about you persisted as you respawned in your hab intact and just as how you were when you died. Then starting in 3.15, medical and respawning and personal inventory were added, and almost immediately the question came up about the subscriber armor and weapons. Here is how I described it over 3 years ago, complete with some very nostalgic frame rates, as well as my old microphone, editing software, and delivery style. The start of the issue was the new Tier 0 medical, death, inventory, persistence, looting systems. In particular, that when you were defeated, anything you had with you when you were respawned regenerated would be left behind, rather than just the weapon in hand, and you would have to go back and get it, and until then, it would be available for others to grab. Now, bear in mind that this has to do with nearly any death, and there are a lot of ways to die in the verse, many, if not most of them, being CIG's doing with bugs and server problems. Obviously, with this change, any item that didn't get left behind when you died or couldn't be stolen from you would be a huge advantage, and these rewards were never portrayed as a huge advantage and thus pay to win. So it was pretty much a forced move. If you brought them out of your home inventory or wore them or carried them, they had to be left behind if you had to be regenerated, and could be stolen from you if you were incapacitated. Except, of course, that was never understood to be a part of the deal. These were promised as a recognition for supporting the project or being a long-term backer. None of that has changed just because someone died in the game. Why should they lose their recognition for it? Maybe way down in the fine print there may have been some disclaimer, but that does not mean that anybody thought that these recognition items would be that quick to be lost. So that's it in a nutshell. For game balance, it has to disappear, but for the integrity of the funding model, it can't be for long. CIG at the time recognized that they had a problem and promised that they were working on a fix. But that fix has been long in coming, and in the meantime, users have gotten used to the Tier -1 reality that the fancy stuff was to be kept in the closet and only brought out to show off at the very special and very safe circumstances. Also, CIG quietly added to Tier -1 what I called Condition 2, which is dying when you are at or near a location with medical facilities, like a landing zone or station, from an accident or a bug. In Condition 2, you are not presumed to be dead and regenerated, but having been rescued by the spaceport. You awaken in the hospital with everything you are wearing, much like Tier -2. So now we get to Tier 0 in 4.1. When you're out there in Condition 1, you respawn with all of your equipment that you were wearing, and any weapon that you had in your hands is also recovered and holstered. However, things inside of your armor and backpack are gone. Out there where your corpse is, they still see your armor and such, but they cannot interact with it to prevent item duplication. But they can loot all the things that are inside of your backpack and armor, since these are not respawned. Things that are attached to your armor, such as grenades, magazines, med pens, etc., are both. You respawn with them, and they are available for looting. Yes, this is item duplication, but those things are of minimal value, so of no consequence to the game balance. Tier 0, Condition 2, where you die in proximity to a medical center, is the same as Tier -1. You get everything and no corpse is generated. In fact, Xylo gave no indication that dying in the immediate vicinity of a hospital changed in any of the tiers. Then, at some time in the future, we get Tier 1 and Tier 2, which Xylo did describe as being in active development. One thing that is important is that if Tier 0 seems a little too soft, things return towards a little more hardcore in Tier 1. In Tier 1, you can register your current loadout at your recovery point, sort of like an insurance. If you're wearing stuff you paid Pledge Store money for, you don't have to remember to register it. Now, in Condition 1, the medical gown returns. The difference is that you can now go out to the item kiosk and be able to easily recover and re-equip your whole kit. However, it is not free. Xylo did not mention what sort of price, but I would expect that it would be a higher price if you're recovering heavy armor and weapons as compared to light armor and weapons. I also suspect that if you are recovering an item that you paid for from the Pledge Store, you will be paying the same price as if you were recovering a stock item. So, for example, if you're recovering Pledge Store or Subscriber Special set of medium armor, the recovery price would be the same as for a typical piece of medium armor. Now, when crafted item quality tiers get into the game, I suspect that high-quality tier items will be reflected in a higher recovery price. In Tier 1, everything becomes lootable again, except with a weird twist. Looted items, when the original owner recovers them, will become bricked and non-functional. While I can imagine some things, like a helmet with sophisticated optics or a plasma rifle, might be able to be remotely reset like your phone does, but how do you brick a knife? Or a candy bar? Or a set of chest armor? A prior suggestion that I made in that earlier video was that looted items from corpses would be automatically given the lowest quality and highest damage state because, bullet holes and blood spatter. Another interesting feature that they mentioned about Tier 1 is that you will also be able to register the equipped state of your ship. So if you have your ship all kitted out with certain weapons in the weapon racks and certain suits in the suit racks and, who knows, maybe a certain number of cruise energy drinks in the fridge, you can restock all of that at once for a fee. It might be particularly interesting if you can even do this while your ship hasn't been destroyed. Haul into port and have the ship's services fill the tanks and replace the missing missiles, lost weapons, restock the bar with one click. Then finally, at Tier 2, the system will add the ability to restore items that have been bricked for a price. This actually is where I think that my suggestion of it, and instead of having things be bricked, have them be damaged and worn, fits the general ability of crafting and making repairs and upgrades be applied. Then the restored items will then have the quality and function, but will not have any special appearances. The Tier 2, along with crafting in general, will also allow those stolen items to be scrapped for materials. So now, what do I think of all this? Well, to be honest, the Tier 0 state is pretty lame and kind of silly. The Tier 1 system, though, is much better. In fact, I'd be just as happy if they stuck with Tier -1 until they could go straight to Tier 1 and skip the Tier 0 entirely. I particularly think that the recovery fee at Tier 1 should be substantial, so that there's still plenty of incentive to survive the fight and incentive to get a rescue rather than just die and recover. So while the inclusion of Tier 0 item recovery in 4.1 is significant, I don't really regard it as much improvement until the Tier 1 version is real. And now for an update on my giveaways. First, we have our special giveaway for the captains of dual VKB Gladiator joysticks, coming along nicely. Also, we are having a special skills contest for channel members to earn a Mirai Guardian or a Misk Fortune. Then we have our annual IAE Week giveaway coming up for the shiny stainless steel Sirius shipping ship, the Starlancer Max. And then the great Grow the Channel ship giveaway at 20,000 subscribers for the winner's choice of the marvelous multi-role multiplayer mining meta, the Arasta, or the brand new big box bargain bazaar, the Merchantman. One entry per video in all these. Members, you're entered automatically. For everyone else, just subscribe and comment with the secret word. And the secret word for this video is the tier I use to describe the status quo. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Daniel Raymond with Ray's Guide.